Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Championship Check-In podcast with myself, Benjamin Bloom, and Sam Parkin, discussing all the recent events in the carnage, the chaos that is the greatest league in the world, the EFL Championship. Let's break the fourth wall immediately, Sam. It's Monday morning. You're on the radio tonight, so we're pre-recording today.
Yeah, I got a couple of bits in the diary, so it was the choice of getting something done early with you, my friend, or me sitting in TalkSport Towers until the dead of night and then making it home, probably with a McDonald's in tow. So I decided to do the sensible thing.
I think it's a win-win. I mean, the earlier in your day you see me, the better your day is going to be generally.
You keep telling yourself that, mate. Yeah, no problem.
And you don't want to be sat in TalkSport Towers until late. Round 27, Sam. Before we know it, there'll be 15 to go. There'll be 10 to go. We're at 19 to go. Now, here are your results. It was Coventry 3, Leicester 1. The leaders, actually, the big losers this weekend, with the entire rest of the top six winning, as we'll get to. The new manager, Derby, was Birmingham 2, Swansea 2. Leeds cruising in, making light of our criticism of their away form. Sam, they won 3-0 at Cardiff. That big game at the bottom, Plymouth did not allow themselves to get sucked in. Huddersfield 1, Plymouth 1. Middlesbrough, they've had a lovely week. Millwall 1, Borough 3. It was Preston 2, Bristol City 0. Whenever the pressure builds on Ryan Lowe, he gets a win, doesn't he, Sam? He gets a win. Rotherham, we kind of bank on their home form, but it was Rotherham 0, Stoke 1. The expected win for Southampton came, and it came handsomely, 4-0, which put Saints into second temporarily. West Brom 4, Blackburn 1. Blackburn's misery continues, 7 defeats in 9. Ipswich, though, did respond with a weakened team on the TV. They beat Sunderland 2-1 in the late kickoff. And then on Sunday, the great goal machine that is Jake Livermore saw it fit to score twice. And QPR 1, Watford 2 was the final score. There, we're going to go on to Parkin's picks, Sam. We've got a bit more time because we're not live. Anything you want to pick out from the results before you tell us what Parkin's pick is?
I think it would probably be amiss of us to not talk about Coventry and Leicester to some extent. I suppose a game where the conversation post-match has been dominated about refereeing decisions. I'm not seeing them as being that contentious. I think the debate that's wrangled on, how vociferous people are one way or the other, sometimes sums it up. You know, both could have got away with the challenges. Thomas could quite easily have not been penalised for that one. I think if Dewsbury Hall gets injured badly there, maybe the conversation's a little bit different.
Which is not how it should be, shouldn't it? That's
no, it shouldn't
bias, isn't it? Yeah.
It shouldn't be. But I think we're in an age now where that would be given in the Premier League and with VAR. So I don't see that being too contentious. Maybe I'm getting soft. And Fatawu, the player jumped straight back up, if memory serves me right. It's wild.
But the key language, Sam, is excessive force and endangering an opponent. I know you used to hate it on ITV when I used to keep bringing that up. That's that we don't want to hear about over the top, out of control, blah de blah. That's what the refs are looking for, aren't they?
They're both on the line, aren't they? So I don't see the massive problem with either two of the decisions. I think in a game like that, and let me just put this out there, I found quite a lot of the stuff between the sets of fans quite unsavoury leading into this game and afterwards. I've seen, a lot of stuff, and the type of weekend that makes me put the phone down a little bit and thinks there is more than football rivalry, in life. As much as I absolutely worship the game, I thought a lot of it was a little bit nasty, to be honest.
Unnecessary.
But in terms of the football, again, I'm getting a bit soft today, clearly. In terms of the football, though, Ben, I didn't see too many problems with those decisions, if I'm being frank. And I think Coventry were the better team. I think they were probably the better team with 11. I think the statistics in the first half show you that. And they kept going in the second period. And I thought probably for the first time, maybe Maresca possibly got his substitutions wrong, and they didn't manage the game. They didn't pose enough of a threat, which the best team in the Championship should probably be able to do, irrelevant of being down to 10. But that shows you just how confident, how good Coventry are. This new look Coventry, I suppose, that have changed a bit as the season's progressed. So no, they got the job done again, and brilliant second goal from Callum O'Hare. I really enjoyed that on his swinger to some extent. Lovely volley.
So Coventry are an honourable mention. They are not Parkin's pick. Have you got any other honourable mentions quickly before we get into it?
Well, I made the good decision to stay at home yesterday rather than go to Loftus Road.
That's right. You were going to go, weren't you?
Yeah, it was going to be the maiden visit maybe for my eldest. So I just think it's probably a bit cold for him at the moment. He's not 4 yet, so I thought it's probably a bit cold for him as well. But we'll come on to QPR a little bit later, but probably right that we mentioned Livermore's double. Thought it was a good game, actually. It was quite interesting. The second half especially, plenty of chances. Probably more for QPR. But yeah, really good away win for Watford. I could do with having the results in front of me here.
I was going to shout out West Brom in 4-1 against Blackburn, and obviously Southampton again. Both of those sides cracking in 4 goals, Sam.
Yeah, I would say Stoke as well. They're not going to be selected.
Still undefeated with Chewy, aren't they?
Yeah, and under Gallagher, I understand, when he was in interim charge as well. So he's definitely he strengthened them defensively. No end. I mean, they're hardly conceding at all. Obviously, another clean sheet at the weekend. I think Rotherham barely mustered a shot. But yeah, that's been a really good start from Stephen Schumacher. And I suppose the Birmingham Swansea game was a pretty good game. And I thought Birmingham unfortunate, despite the necessity to get a late equaliser. I thought they should have been probably clear in the first half, and Luke Williams said as much. It was the least that Birmingham deserved from the game, and some early teething problems maybe with Swansea reverting to how they were previously under Russell Martin. They've had 6 months probably being coached and told not to do that. All of a sudden in the first half at St Andrews, a few over elaborate passing sequences in their own kind of 18-yard box nearly gave away goals. So no, I thought that was I think we called a draw, didn't we? I certainly called a draw, and it was a nice way for both managers, I think, to get a point under their belts.
There we go. Let's go to Parkin's pick then. I know we're a championship podcast, Sam, but you're going to allow us some creative license here to mention an EFL Cup result as well into the bargain when we're talking about this week's Parkin's pick. Yeah,
I could have gone for Stoke here, I think, or Coventry. I think they're the two probably on the podium. Going to go for Middlesbrough this week off the back of, I thought it was a brilliant display against Chelsea. They weren't great in the opening 45. They actually presented a bit like Swansea at the weekend, had a bit of a problem playing out, and Cole Palmer in particular missed a few good opportunities, but they scored a brilliant goal. They'd clearly recognised that Isaiah Jones could be a threat down the sides up against Levi Colwell. Hackney finished it off brilliantly. And the second half, I just marvelled at the way they defended the lead. I thought they were exceptional. I think they actually got better defensively when they had to make the enforced change, and Matt Clark comes on, because I think he's a brilliant defender when the backs are against the wall and you got to defend the 18-yard box. So I thought they were brilliant. They limited Chelsea, frustrated Chelsea in that second half, and they go to Stamford Bridge week tomorrow with a really good chance. And I just think the variation in the tactics has been quite interesting as well.
When you're talking to me about a Michael Carrick team putting on a good defensive show, I'm like,
Yeah, there's a massive contrast. If you look at the games, there's been so few goals at the Riverside. I did note it down how many they had. Well, they take that Preston game out of it, where I was co-commentating and they won 4-0. And I think after that, when I reported back to you, I just said, God, they're good fun, Middlesbrough. They don't really pay too much attention to defending. Well, in complete contrast to that statement, they've been very good, I think, in that regard at home. They don't score many at the Riverside. So they've only scored 10 in the other 12 games this season, which just shows you how difficult it's been without Akpom and Archer and some others. So, there's a big contrast in between how they are at home and away from home. And that was encapsulated with a really good win at Millwall, where they were stuck on the coach for 90 minutes, I believe. It's about a mile from Canary Wharf to Bermondsey, or maybe just over. And they nearly missed the game. Well, certainly missed the start because the kickoff was delayed. So they were sluggish to begin with, which sometimes can happen. I wouldn't read too much into that. But had Jake Cooper, I think, extended Millwall's lead early on, we could be talking about a very different result. But I just thought interesting look there. I think Rodgers played as the 9, Azaz as the 10. Obviously back to a back 4 now that you've got Luke Ayling readily available to be your nominal right back.
He's like the most, apart from maybe Lewis Travis, like the most ready to go Championship play can buy, isn't he? Sticking straight in.
Yeah, I would think so. And it was a bit of I would say the kind of back 3 was a bit of a hybrid against Chelsea, ironically against Chelsea, who are like hybrid with a capital H this season, with Levi Colwill playing left back. But yeah, Isaiah Jones, his starting position is really high, even in the back 3. And it's a little bit different on the left-hand side with Bangura obviously got injured, then Engel went there. And they're a little bit more defensively minded. So it's not too dissimilar to how they set up in kind of the 4-2-3-1. It's just obviously without the ball, they do shift back into that back 5. So just thought it was interesting again at the weekend, varying the tactics, bit of a free roll for Finn Azaz, bit like Ipswich. Greenwood comes in off the left-hand side. That's been a bit of a feature of the season, is wide left player tucking in, because you have the width and the directness of Jones on the other flank. So now I thought it was a really good win. And I thought, just looking at the bench as well, Ben, Crooks, Hackney, Force, Clark, they were the 4 coming off the bench. And maybe Force would potentially get a run down the middle at some stage this season. If they can find a route to goal and find a way to get more consistent scorers in their squad, in their 11, then absolutely the playoffs is still a realistic proposition. And you know, again, this game, Millwall weren't bad. I think it was just that additional quality that Middlesbrough can introduce now off the bench that saw them to victory.
So 2 questions to follow up, Sam. You can talk to me about a potential Wembley double then, because they're a draw away from getting there in the EFL Cup and 1 point off the playoffs. And correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, making the comparison to last season's team, Glover wasn't there, Engel wasn't there, Vandenberg wasn't there, Ayling wasn't there, Greenwood wasn't there. Did Barlaser come in halfway through the season, or was that the start of the season? I can't remember.
He was there last year, though, wasn't he? Yeah.
He was there. Jones was there, but having some issues. Rodgers wasn't there. Azaz wasn't there. So talk to me about Michael Carrick essentially having to build an entirely new team, and the probability chance, is it faint chance of a double Wembley appearance?
Yeah, well, I suppose that kind of underlines what my sentiment, probably the majority of people's sentiment's been about Michael Carrick. He looks to be the real deal. I think he's got something about him, hasn't he? And he's had to adapt this year. He spoke so often last year about all those individual little decisions he made, playing Force off the right, playing Akpom at number 10, giving Hackney the platform to go and showcase his skills, start of last season. So he made some brilliant calls last year, and I think we're seeing a bit of that again recently. So I don't think they're as exciting to watch. I think the lack of goals maybe at home, the lack of points at home, gives you an indication of that. And the top goal scorers on 5. I think there's 2 or 3 of them on 5. So this is a different challenge for him. But if last week was anything to go by, and the fact that they are the arguably the draw specialists, what are we looking at? 1 draw in 25 games, Middlesbrough. This could be a famous night at Stamford Bridge. But given I think Chelsea are 4 on the bounce now in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge, and they've taken care of Championship, League 1, League 2 opposition very, very comfortably in all the competitions so far this season. I think it'll be too difficult for them. But they go there really confident after 2 very good victories.
Excellent. Middlesbrough are Parkin's pick. Rotherham at home next as well, and they are one of the table. So, yeah, things looking good at the moment for Borough. As we move on to a pretty good week, I think, for Worldies. There's a few contenders this week, Sam, for Worldie of the Week. What have you got up your sleeve for me? Maybe some honourable mentions first.
Yeah, I can't go down the route of another free kick, but I really like Lewis Baker's. Thought that was a terrific strike and quite interesting. I don't know the reasoning behind it. I'm not at the time this morning, but he's only played, I think, the last two. Lewis Baker. He's been on the periphery, and he had a real good impact, didn't he? Was it about this time last year where he's playing? And I watched a lot of him. I think it was the first half of last season where he was stuck in Chelsea's under 23s, under 21s, because he couldn't find a low move in time before the summer window closed. And his attitude was actually really, really good. You felt sorry for him. I think it was circumstantial rather than his own want, obviously. So he's a good player, Lewis Baker, and dead ball specialist. I thought it was quite an unusual kind of free kick because you expect that probably to go into the opposite corner. So he kind of really whipped his right foot around it. Yeah, brilliant goal. Livermore's definitely the first. Just it looked lovely, didn't it? The way it went in.
Beautiful.
Just thought
right in the side netting. Yeah,
just thought the lack of pace on it meant that I've not seen anyone else say this. So I'm going out on a limit. I just thought maybe a more sprightly goalkeeper may have got across to it.
So you
Possibly
might
being harsh.
being a bit stiff there, Sam. I think it's a great finish, isn't it? But open to interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think sometimes those ones, if the goalkeeper's maybe got a better sight of it or reacts a bit quicker, that could be quite a comfortable save. Oh God, I can't believe I said it. But no, it was a great goal. Listen, it's not my strong suit, and I don't like going up against goalkeepers.
No.
So there you go. I've caveated it. The Mara goal for Southampton was a brilliant team goal, built on that right hand side. I think it was Walker Peters and Armstrong. That duo have been so good down that flank. They scored a couple of brilliant team goals, Southampton. And I think it's the second one to put on his mantelpiece. I am going to go back to Friday night, and my goal of the week is Jonathan Rowe's individual goal at Hull for Norwich.
Absolute filth, wasn't it? Complete filth. And you look at it when he picks it up. I often think this when you're judging a goal. You think, what are the chances of this turning out to be a goal? When he picks it up and they're not defending badly. It was the three moves, wasn't it? It was the right foot to the left foot, and then how early he hits that shot. It's a superb goal, isn't it? I'm totally with you on this one, Sam.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of one that it reminded me of, and I've just got there as you were talking. I mean, it reminded me a little bit of the way Merson and Teddy Sheringham used to play. I'm sure Teddy Sheringham got one like that. They were both kind of masters with the outside of the right foot, which is a real tough skill, especially if you're moving.
Tarab's goal in the stupid season. Was that what you're going to say? Yeah.
That's your one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's probably better because I think he goes past maybe one or maybe two.
8 players, does 3 nutmegs beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that one is better, but there is a touch or maybe 2 touches within that sequence on Friday, which are just brilliant. I mean, he's a bit, he's just a player that gets you off the edge of your seat. And maybe it's that consistency that's kept him from breaking through until this point, because he's had some poor games this year. I thought he was poor. At Portman Road and
scoring twice.
Left with a brace. But I think the manager said as much afterwards.
That says it all, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, his care with the ball wasn't great, and what have you in a derby. But that can happen to a wide player who's given the freedom, I suppose, to try things. But no, I thought that was probably far and away the best goal this weekend.
On a broader point then with Norwich, Sam, we had this in 2017-18 with Norwich, and James Maddison got 14 goals and 8 assists and essentially carried the team. And, the question is, where would they have been without Maddison? He's got 11 goals and 2 assists, 25% of Norwich's goals this season. Is he doing, and I mean, you can argue with the comparison of the team that Maddison was playing in as opposed to this team, but he just pops up in the big moments, scores big goals, scores quality goals. Is he carrying Norwich now, Ro?
Yeah, I mean, he had such a great start to the season, but that was because he was playing in a good team, wasn't he, for the first month, when he had fully fit teammates, experience, and the nucleus of the 18 that David Wagner could name on a Saturday was pretty good. So I don't know if he's been really carrying, because he's probably not been able to step up during the absence of Sargent and Barnes. That would have been an astonishing feat. But no, he's had a brilliant season. But I don't think we're in kind of Smodic's Blackburn territory here. And we'll see now that they've got some bodies back. We'll see what they can do in January as well. But there's no getting away from, he's been probably the surprise package of the season. I can't think of, Smodic's would be in the conversation as well, because of, he's never been someone who can carry the goal scoring burden, I would suggest. But yeah, it would be interesting to know if Rowe was really in the picture in pre-season as well. If he's had a stellar pre-season, people within the camp at Norwich probably would have known to a degree what potentially could come this season. It's just mere mortals like me and you who have just kind of watched a gasp as he's continued to notch. So yeah, he's having a great season, and he was very, very unfortunate not to make our Championship 11, right? If he continues like this, could be Jack Clark or Somerville or someone getting left out into the season.
There you go. Johnny Rowe, for the second time this season for Norwich, is our Worldie of the week. Let's lower the tone, Sam. Time for cause for concern. So we're going to batch up 4 teams here, because the cause for concern is not 1, not 2, not 3, but the entire bottom 4, Sam. And are we at the point where, with Birmingham having changed the manager and Plymouth's perhaps durability, and then the distance between Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday being 10 points, are we at a lock now for the bottom 4? Is it going to be 3 from 4? Is that pretty much nailed on now?
Oh, it's difficult to see anyone capitulating to the extent that's going to bring them involved. I would say of the teams directly above, I would say Argyle can't afford to lose any more players, and they're going to have a good January. I think that's fair on the back of Kessler Hayden going as well, Kundal, Azaz. But there's something inside of me which would echo your sentiment 30 seconds ago. Just a continuation of a similar appointment, the nucleus of the spine of the team remaining. And if they can keep Whittaker and Hardy, I think those two will provide enough to keep them steer. And the other one would be Blackburn. But again, you probably trust the manager. You probably trust the ability to just pull a result out of the hat, and put a team to the sword, away from home, just when you feel like they are on desperate kind of slide towards trouble, they'll pull something out. So,
and Sam, you look at that points total, and it's at 32, and you would think 13 points from 19 games, three wins and a few draws, and it's probably enough at 32 points, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that emphasises just how far away the bottom 3 have become. Let's look at Rotherham first. I mean, this is desperate, isn't it? I suppose a desperate result of the weekend off the back of 3 unbeaten, but not being able to build really on that Middlesbrough victory. Just 2 points from the subsequent 3. I don't know if you looked at it. I think there were 7 shots in the Rotherham Stoke game at the weekend. So creatively, I think isn't the biggest issue right now. When you look, the back 3 of Revan, Adofin and Morrison is actually improved than I would suggest. But creative wise, they've only scored multiple goals twice in the last 13 games, and it's only yielded 1 point those 2 games. They had the draw at Plymouth, was it? And the point against, sorry, they lost, didn't they, at Plymouth narrowly, and they got the draw against Blackburn, 2-2. So that's the biggest issue now. And there's problems with Kioso, was missing ill at the weekend. He's been recalled, hasn't he, from his loan. I don't think, or I'm not sure if he's going to play a part. Lembekisa's gone back as well, so they're going to have to do some business in January. And penny for the chairman's thoughts, having not had that maybe immediate upturn, and it's not been a disaster. I don't know. Neil Warnock, speed dial, February.
I think I know it was a bit of a cliche, but when you bring in the manager who was the champion of League One a couple of seasons ago, it does give off a certain message about why he may or may not be there, Sam. But just move on. QPR, we've gone from being fairly optimistic with Mr. Cifuentes to, the off-pitch mess is, now problematic again, and there's going to be no business essentially done. And now the results have dropped off as well.
Yeah, my brother texted me, because we were going to go to the game. He texted me about 5 minutes into the second half, and we've been discussing Sinclair Armstrong, and my goodness me, he gave him a game yesterday. But when you get presented with 2 1-on-1s, essentially,
free header in the first half as well.
Free header in the first half, you got to have someone there that can put the ball in the back of the net. And absolutely, I think it can work. The reason it's probably not working at the moment, the obvious thing is he's missing chances, but he's playing with a striker who ironically did get a goal yesterday. But they need someone maybe for him to play with. I think, to me, that's obvious. They need a better caliber striker. Willock's not at it at the moment, so this isn't going to be a 2-minute kind of conversation pinpointing QPR's flaws because they've got a raw young centre forward who's not putting the ball in the back of the net. Willock needs to be better. But I look at that team, and my brother texted me and said this is going to be 2-0 Watford after 5 minutes of the second half. There's a vulnerability about them. Even in their kind of their setup, Watford, I still felt there was a little bit more explosiveness, a bit more vigour, a bit more creativity in their forward play. And I always fancied them to get a goal before QPR. That's the honest truth. I think there's a vulnerability defensively. I thought the midfield of Colback and Field, so samey. How long have I been saying that about QPR? They need a better passer of the ball in that position, someone who can do a little bit more when Willock's not at it. And thank goodness I didn't go. I mean, 9 points at home this season, the worst record in the division. So unless, and this is going to be the reoccurring theme today, unless they pull something out of the hat in January, the confidence just seems to have seeped out of the side. So that was kind of, from 50 minutes, the most obvious outcome of the weekend for me.
Yeah, did Sheffield Wednesday the one then that you think might be able to trend up and out come what may?
Yeah, I think, absolutely. You have to say that because of the recent run. What was it? 6 wins from 9, wasn't it, going into the weekend?
Right.
I mean, this was a humbling defeat. They didn't look great defensively. I think Diaby and Palmer were there. But Bernard was in midfield. So there was a few probably...
but in their defence, Sam, Southampton away at the moment is no barometer to judge anybody by, is it?
No, of course not. No, they're purring, again, highlighted by the quality of the goal. Russell Martin getting Adams and Armstrong back in the starting lineup together. Armstrong seems to have mastered that position on the right. So those two were always going to score bundles of goals at this division, and Sheffield Wednesday felt that force at the weekend. But I thought they were a little bit probably out of necessity rather than the manager tinkering with the tactics. But they've made the most progress over the longer period. I would say QPR short period, and then now they've had 1 point from 18, which is desperate form. So absolutely Sheffield Wednesday to maybe reel in Huddersfield, which would be an incredible story. Huddersfield's woes, they're
under
flaws.
The points per game there, aren't they? So they're not projecting to hit 46, and you kind of know what you're going to get from Huddersfield, don't you? Where it's almost like, okay, they'll probably track at around a point per game and win the odd game and throw the odd draw in here and there. So they're almost there for the taking. I'm fairly confident that's exactly what Huddersfield will do.
Yeah, I saw the owner had another kind of video. Yeah, and I read an article actually. I think it was pre-match where he said, Darren Moore's an attacking manager, and we haven't really had the opportunity to give him the tools, but we're going to do so now. Obviously, Alex Matos has come in from Chelsea, a bit of an unknown quantity, played at the weekend, I think, in a kind of attacking midfield role. But we'll see what they'll do in the window. But yeah, 3 wins from 21 tells the story. That lack of real goal threat. I think Koroma and Thomas played as the furthest forward players at the weekend, but they definitely need a striker, unquestionably. And my sentiment about them is definitely they came into this season underpowered for a challenge in the Championship. So, I mean, I wouldn't be daft to suggest that they're going to change manager again, but I think the fans are absolutely asking that question as to why they did feel it was the right moment to move Neil Warnock on and go for Darren Moore, who had a much better opportunity of achieving something at Sheffield Wednesday last year at the other end of the table in League One. So yeah, this is, I think, probably on the balance of that chat as well. 4 teams jostling for 3 places they don't want. That doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean, Sam. Yeah, and I suppose the only thing, just to round this out, always say down at the bottom, the pace is so slow that you just never know. If you play a 3-game week and you win twice, it just your points graph just spikes off the scale. So it's just a case of, can anybody do that?
Yeah, just on this finally, because I think it's relevant. Sheffield Wednesday, 2 games against Coventry, 1 in the cup, and Watford at home. So Coventry, Watford at home, and then Huddersfield. So that's a big one to look ahead to. And what would that be? Around about 3 weeks' time, probably.
We will pencil that in for the Mouthwatering Matchup for that week. But before we do that bit this week, we've got to do our Meltdown Moment first. Have you got the big Sam Parkin book of caveats out, as we always need for the for the Meltdown Moment? Is this the manager or the club you've picked this week?
Oh, we could have done them last week, couldn't we? I suppose after the decorations at the ground. It's probably a combination of what I'm kind of reading. There was the social media clip of the, rightly so, probably the fans singing that they want a striker at the weekend at Portman Road. Apologies if I got that wrong, but I think I did see that probably in a late night
got that
scooper.
right, yeah.
So yeah, we're talking about Sunderland here, and I suppose it's just a product of a team that were going okay. Yes, I think they'd only won 2 in 9 under Tony Mowbray, and there was some conversation starting and some discontent about his leadership of the team. But it's an appointment that's not been met with great approval, and I don't think from the opening 5 or 6 games anything's really changed. And I thought Ipswich deserved to win at the weekend. I thought absolutely that lack of a presence down the middle hindered Sunderland here. Maybe they got away with it a little bit previously last season when Pritchard and Roberts and Clark had such great chemistry, and Roberts is not there at the moment and hasn't been as positive this season. So Bellingham was okay in this game, but Rusing got on the 84th minute. Burstow got on 89th minute, and there was obviously amongst that, and it's not to single out a player, but a substitute who came on and obviously gave away the free kick that Ipswich scored from, and missed a golden opportunity to maybe make the outcome a little bit different. So the substitutions were a little bit puzzling. I don't think they had enough chances to warrant getting something, which was Mick Beale's sentiment after the game. I think just the 3 on the target. To give him a little bit of credit, I think they're better defensively. I think they had 2 clean sheets in 3 coming into this game. I don't think they've been I think that's been the case maybe throughout the season, hence why Patterson's been getting, I think, admiring glances. I think I've been reading about that in the last few days. So the back four and the goalkeeper is not a huge issue. I think we know what the issue is here, and part of it as well is just they haven't taken to him. And I think,
well, Sam, can I just question you on that? Where do you draw the distinction between, on the one hand, someone not being the right fit, which we have seen at clubs before, where you think on paper, that club, that manager, that's going to work. So that's one scenario. And also being kind of thrown under the bus as well, in terms of if the outgoing sacking is unpopular, I know that's not his fault. Maybe Mick Beale's reputation from the QPR debacle is his fault. But where do you draw the distinction between him possibly not being the right fit, or kind of it being a bit of a hospital ball that he's taken in the first place?
I think it's a bit of both. I'm just trying to think if he could have done anything differently. And I think a lot of it is now PR and how you conduct yourself, isn't it?
Right.
And I think that's a little bit of it. I don't know if he's difficult to warm to. I certainly warmed to him at QPR because the football was brilliant for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it was. But I understand kind of what the Sunderland fans are saying. And I'm never going to sit here and character assassinate someone, because that's not my job and not my purpose. But I understand what they're saying. So I don't know what the sentiment is. Is it the lack of humility? I don't know what the Sunderland fans entirely aren't happy with. But I think it's a strong fan base, isn't it? And I think that he needs them on side. But my gut, and I think the right way to look at it, is he needs January. He needs an opportunity maybe to change the squad a little, but he needs time to work with the players, and only with a bigger chunk of games are we rightly then able to make an opinion on his impact. So it's far too early at the moment, but it's difficult to see where they've improved. They won that Preston game, didn't they, quite comfortably with a striker in the side. And we'll see if that's given him food for thought, the defeat at Ipswich. But yeah, it's tough because it's only been. I think the Derby defeat probably doesn't help either. I think going to Ipswich, you'd expect a bit more of a reaction. So I think that's probably part of it as well. But absolutely needs more time. But at this stage, he probably has been, handed an opportunity that was too great to turn down, but one that he had to hit the ground running with because of all the reasons we've mentioned.
100%. We'll keep an eye on Mick Beale and Sunderland and see how that situation plays out. We are going to switch now to looking ahead. So if you look above Sam's head, you'll see that we're partnered with Match Bingo for this part of the show, and we thank them as ever for their support. So coming up, Sam, this weekend, and we're thinking mouthwatering matchup now, we have the aforementioned Sunderland hosting Hull. The train that is Southampton heads off to Swansea, Russ Martin's former club. It's Blackburn versus Huddersfield. Interesting one, that one. Bristol City versus Watford. Middlesbrough versus Rotherham that we mentioned in Parkin's pick. Norwich West Brom could be interesting. Plymouth versus Cardiff. QPR Millwall. Sheffield Wednesday versus informed Coventry. Stoke versus Birmingham. And you're probably wondering why I haven't mentioned Leeds or Ipswich yet, because on Sunday, Leeds host Preston. On Monday, Leicester versus Ipswich. Sam, let me click the button, and then you can tell me what we've chosen for this week's Mouthwatering Matchup. Few in contention there, but one obvious one, really.
Yeah, we're going down the obvious route, aren't we? We're going to go Leicester, Ipswich Town. Clearly, Monday night. Did you say?
Probably won't be first against second, will it? If we're just assuming that Southampton are just going to keep winning and winning and winning, then it might be a switch of positions again. We discussed this on Blue Monday, who that actually puts the pressure on, because on the one hand, Leicester have got a nice, comfortable cushion. But if Ipswich were to go to Leicester and win, all of a sudden you're looking at 6 points taken out of Leicester in 2 games, assuming Leeds and Southampton both won. But obviously, everyone's jockeying for those automatic spots, and the overtake has been in the offing for a while. Ipswich kept them at bay this week, but going to Leicester away is, in theory, the hardest game you can get. How are you seeing it?
Yeah, it's interesting that. I'd say for the first time in quite a while, there might be a little bit of pressure on Leicester. Yeah.
That's what Craig on the Blue Monday podcast said, and I sort of fired back at him on that one. But
I think inevitably,
I think you agree with him.
Yeah, I think inevitably the Ipswich players that have got themselves in this brilliant position will be looking over their shoulders to a degree, and keeping tabs on how Southampton are doing. And of course, it'll be a blow if they take care of business against Swansea and draw themselves level. But then I think Leicester will probably be a little bit concerned about Southampton as well. And having lost at Coventry, if Ipswich could go there and produce something special, spectacular, I mean, Fataru's going to be missing now as well.
Maresca is going to have a touchline ban, which could be big as well.
I think are they down to just Tom Cannon now?
So Iheanacho's out with Nigeria, isn't he?
So listen, I'm not saying these problems are going to magnify and it's going to be a horrendous fall off. That's the furthest from my mind right now, because I think they're the best team. But I think there'll be a little bit of pressure on them here for the first time. And I think Ipswich, there is a degree of pressure because this could be kind of the weekend, couldn't it, for Leicester to set sail and for the reality to set in that Southampton are motoring and they've gone potentially above Ipswich in the race. So I'm not sure where the pressure is. How do you see it faring anyway? Let me put it on you. What were your biggest takeaways from the win over Sunderland?
It's difficult with that win over Sunderland because there was so much of it that was sort of putting bandages over things. At the back, Edmondson was great, so there was no drop-off from Burgess going. Obviously, Morsey and Luongo have been fantastic, and Travis stepped in and did as you would expect. Taylor struggled a little bit, but kind of kept up his end. So you're going in against Dewsbury Hall and Winks without your first choice midfielders, which is a problem. And then, of course, Caden Jackson, people will look back and see he got his goal. But you've said to me numerous times, particularly about that game where you scored twice at Leeds for Ipswich, that sometimes you don't look at the goals for the performance. You said you played badly in that game and scored twice. And you said there's other games you thought you played brilliantly and contributed and didn't score. So it's difficult not to get wrapped up in Caden Jackson scoring. But I guess, Sam, given their place in the table, their squad, if you could escape with a draw, knowing that would keep you second with 18 games to go and knowing you've played Leeds twice and Leicester twice already and got that done, I'm sure a lot of Ipswich fans would shake hands on the draw. It would be complete chaos, though, if all Leeds, Southampton and Ipswich won and that gap will closed up, though. But you've got to make Leicester strong favourites, haven't you, Sam?
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, that's a really good outcome, I think, a draw for Ipswich. Just on their winning goal against Sunderland. That's 2 games in succession I've watched of Ipswich. I mean, how many teams are not going to get to grips with Ipswich's outswingers from free kicks, from corners? I mean, I must have seen them score 4 or 5 goals. The corner kick they love, and Broadhead profited from it at AFC Wimbledon. It got about 17 deflections, but the outswinging corner to the kind of the near post just outside the 6-yard box for someone to run on and strike. And Leif Davis to Chaplin has just been happening throughout the season, yet Sunderland clearly hadn't looked at it or didn't follow the manager's instruction.
What I'd say is they're so heavily trained. It's Charlie Turnbull who does the set plays. I think Leif Davis needs so much credit because we think every week he's being given a different playbook and he just puts them exactly where he should every time. So, yeah, I agree. everyone knows that Leif Davis is a huge threat, and there's this, the Teddy Sheringham, Darren Anderton corner for people of our age. But I do think Davis deserves a load of credit for just turning up every week, memorizing the new load of plays, and delivering them as well. So I think there's two sides to it, isn't there?
Yeah, and putting the disappointment of the Leeds game behind him. Yeah, great delivery. I thought he had a really good game actually, and yeah, it's such a big part of their arsenal. That was a bit David Brent, wasn't it? Yeah, he's he's a massive part of it. You could jot down 7 or 8 things just at the top of your head that make this Ipswich team tick and what makes them so hard to defend against, and he's a massive part of it. I've said copious amounts of times that I've spoken to people within the game, and they're desperately trying to get their left-sided player to kind of have that in their makeup, to have a left-sided player who can do that role, so they can play the little lopsided back three and what have you. So yeah, he's had a phenomenal season, double figures now, isn't it? And he'll be big at the weekend. But Leicester, who's been there? Leeds and Hull have been there, haven't they? And won. I think they're the two outliers.
Interestingly, both 1-0. They both had to keep a clean sheet to beat Leicester, right?
Yeah, and just on the striker as well, this is going to be a completely different test if they go for Caden Jackson up against a team that's hardly conceded at the King Power this season. Very, very standout defenders, across the whole piece. I think they've been majestic. I think the two centre halves and Ricardo as well, Ricardo Pereira. So this is a different proposition for him. But yeah, fair play to him, Jackson, getting the goal and doing a pretty good job up there.
Mouthwatering matchup then is Leicester versus Ipswich next Monday night. Let's go to the player to watch. This is an interesting call from you, Sam. I didn't expect you to pick this one out, but who have you gone for?
I'll tell you what's more interesting is that I watched a little bit of, I think it was Leeds TV or the local commentary, and they are pronouncing Gruev, who is my player to watch, as Groif.
Like Johan Groif?
Absolutely. And at the weekend, this is what we get paid the big bucks for. He was like Johan Cruyff.
Oh, there he is. So I don't know a hell of a lot about this guy. I had a look before we came. Apparently 6.5 million euros, 23-year-old Bulgarian, but it's been Ampadu and Gray and then Ampadu and Kamara. If FootMob is right, it was Ampadu and Gruev. Kamara and Gruev with Ampadu at centre-back. And if you believe the notion of get as many of your best players on the pitch as possible, is that a potential solution now going forward for Leeds?
I'm going to butcher another name here, aren't I? But Strauch has been sensational as well. So
really good, yeah.
Yeah, and Rodon as well. So they've got a bit of a luxury of riches and embarrassment of riches there. I think it was nice because Groif actually came in and did what Ampadu's provided, the solidity in front of the back four. He was very aggressive, snapping into challenges. But what stood out to me was his calmness on the ball. And his distribution was phenomenal. Beautiful left foot. I've read quite a lot about him and been a 92%
little bit on the pass completion as well. So he looked after the ball, Sam.
Yeah, I can raise you on that. I read something that said 97%.
92 across the season.
Right, okay.
It was 97 standalone on Saturday.
The passing accuracy was the best by a Leeds midfielder to play over 50 passes in the game since Opta started in 2013-14.
And that takes in Calvin Phillips quarterbacking for a whole season under Bielsa, yeah?
Yeah, and it's not something I'd even bother wasting time muttering. But do you know what? It absolutely encapsulates the performance. He was on the ball and he was so tidy. Not obviously penetrative stuff all the time, but he played a couple in behind fullbacks or for midfielders breaking forward in behind Cardiff players. I mean, it was a very, very good display. And when you're talking about a Leeds victory away from home by 3-0, what, the third 3-0 on the bounce. You'd imagine the standout would be forward players. Ruto with another goal, Somerville very good, Dan James at it again, Bamford 3-3, but he was phenomenal in this game. So I'm really enthused by that for him, and moving forward, what would they do? And we can put Gray in the mix there as well. He's obviously, I would imagine, chomping at the bit to be getting the nod in midfield. Been doing a good job at right back, obviously. So good to see some other players coming to the fore, other players to talk about rather than the front four who spent a lot of the season waxing lyrical about.
And will no doubt likely continue to do so.
Do you know who he reminded me of? Just to like get the Leeds fans spitting out their what would it be? Their morning brew, right? It reminded me of Matt Grimes, actually. And I know that someone come on the chat last week and said he was dreadful at Ellen Road or he wasn't very good or whatever. But let's talk Matt Grimes at it at Swansea, quarterback in, taking it left foot. Yeah, it reminded me of him. But it was very, very impressive.
Interesting. We will keep an eye, and I'll keep an eye on my pronunciation of Ilya Cruyff. I've just got to think of Johan Cruyff, haven't I? Now, guys, we're going to do something a little bit different now, and we hope you work with us. This is the end of the podcast, okay? We're pre-recording, so obviously there's no live Q&A. There is no the week that was. That's my fault because I didn't tell Fev until about an hour ago that we were recording at 11:30, and he's got work stuff to do. And what we're going to do with the predictions now going forward, and we hope you like this, is we're going to separate them from the podcast because we've got so much good feedback, Sam, on people enjoying them as a separate clip, maybe on a Wednesday. So we are going to film them now, but you're going to have to wait until Wednesday for our predictions. So I'll give that a plug. I'll say give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening on podcast. And tune in on Wednesday for the full predictions.